Hello, I'm Tanya Dalton, and this is another episode of Tanya TV. Today, I want to talk to you about your to-do list. You see, all of us like setting goals, right? But it's not enough to set goals. We need to actively, intentionally work towards them every single day. And for many people, that means making a to-do list every single morning. And I get it, that makes sense. But is your to-do list really working for you? So let's talk about how to prioritize your to-do list. So as I said, really the key to achieving your goals is setting your intentions every day to actively work on them. And so, a lot of people make to-do lists. But you know what I tell people about to-do lists? You need to take them, crumple them up, and throw them in the trash. To-do lists don't work. It's an impossibly defeating habit. It really is, because they're too long, they're too jumbled, and it's really easy to add items onto our list. And this is why we end up with these to-do lists that are like 5 miles too long, right? But the biggest problem with to-do lists is they don't tell you where to start. And for many people, this can create a lot of overwhelm because there's so many tasks and things on that list that they don't really know where they want to focus first. And I've often said, overwhelm isn't having too much to do, it's not knowing where to start. So if you get rid of your to-do list, you can use a priority list instead. Now, a priority list takes exactly the same amount of time to make as a to-do list, but it is written with intention. It doesn't take a lot of effort, it just takes a little bit of understanding. So I'd love to walk through that with you. Now, the priority list system that I've created has 3 categories: immediate, important, and insignificant. And you'll notice it's a blend of the Eisenhower matrix and the triage method. Now, Dwight D. Eisenhower is considered by most historians as our most productive president, and he used a quadrant system. This was really popularized by Stephen Covey in his 7 Habits book. The triage method is a method that was developed back in World War I by the French Army. What I have done is I've combined the best of both of these systems into one priority list system. So let's go through each of these levels. But before we do, I want to take just a minute to explain to you the difference between important and urgent. I think a lot of times people confuse these and they think they're the same thing basically, but they're not. Tasks that are important move you towards your goals. They're really important for getting you to your mission and your vision. They're tied to your core values, what I like to call your North Star. Tasks that are urgent are tied only to time. It has nothing to do with being important. It just means they have a screaming deadline. And the reason why a lot of times our urgent tasks get tackled first is because they are screaming out at us. They are beeping and pinging and calling out to us. They're the urgent fires that feel like they need to be put out first. But we really need to remember that just because something is urgent doesn't mean it's important. And that's really important when we're creating our priority list. So here's the way it works. And I'm going to show you this in our daily planner, just because it's written in there. Now, if you don't have one of our daily planners, you could certainly do this on a sheet of notebook paper or in a journal. What's really important is that you categorize your tasks. So what you do is you start here at the top, and you'll see this is our immediate area. These are items that are important and they're urgent. So they're important because they're tied to a goal, or they're tied to your mission or your vision of where you want to go, but they also have an urgent deadline. They have something that needs to happen right away. So this might be last-minute changes to a project because of client feedback, or it could be issues with your website. You know, things that you can't really control where you have a tight deadline. So we want to start our day taking care of these items first because they are urgent, but they're also important. And then when we work our way down the list, we have our important category next. So these are items that are important, but they're not really urgent. And you'll notice this is the biggest section of the priority list because this is the place where we move from being reactive to being proactive. This is where we're able to do our absolute best work, and we can dive in deeper, we can innovate, we can be creative, but oftentimes because it's not urgent, because there's not a screaming deadline, this category gets forgotten. It gets left off. But really the tasks here are going to move you forward in the long run. So these might be things like creating a marketing plan for your business, working on a project that's not due for several weeks, creating a budget for your family, taking a class to improve your skills, whether it's for work or for home. So it's really an area where you can see growth and you can really explore and create things that are really beautiful and meaningful to you. And then we get to our last category, and this last category is insignificant. And I know that word may not feel good to you because we don't want to think of our tasks as being insignificant. But we all have insignificant tasks on our plate. These are things that are urgent, but they're not necessarily important. So unfortunately, when we have a to-do list, these are often the tasks that we tackle first because they are screaming out at us, or they're really easy to check off of our list. So we end up spending the majority of our time here rather than really on what's most important. And that's why we're not really making these big steps forward towards our big goals. So this is things that are in your email inbox. 99% of your emails are urgent, but not really important. It might be projects that you don't really want to work on that you got suckered into by a friend. Or it could be volunteer projects for something you volunteered for out of guilt, not necessarily because you're passionate about the cause. So here's the trick here. People often get confused and they think, well, do I just not do these tasks at all? That's not true because these tasks still need to get done. It's just they get done after the important tasks get done. So we start at the top in our immediate category and we work our way down. So things that are urgent but not really important get done last. They still get done, but they're just not tackled at the start of your day. We don't want to get sucked into a rabbit hole, right, with these things that are not really important or moving us towards our goals. So let me ask you this question. I want you to think of a goal that you currently have. How do you prioritize working on it? Do you think that if you wrote down one thing to work on each day, you would get closer to that goal? Do you think that would make a difference? I would love for you to comment below and share with me how working on your goal on a daily basis would really make a difference. You see, it makes sense to prioritize, but it's really hard at times, especially if we're just using that to-do list. We lose sight of what's truly important to us because that list, well, it confuses us because it's just a jumble of tasks that are written on a page. And oftentimes, we think we have to do everything. And that's not really true. When we try to do everything, we end up doing nothing. We end up chasing our tails, going in 1,000 different directions instead of the direction we really want to do. Think of things like laundry, kind of the grunt work in our day. We feel like we have to do every part of that. But I want to challenge you and I want to ask you, do you really have to do every single step of laundry? Are there things in that system you could delegate? Could someone else sort their laundry? Could someone else fold the clothes? Because here's our biggest problem. We can't say no. It's really hard to tell people no. We are so intent on making people happy that we often put ourselves at the bottom of our people-pleasing list. But we have to treat ourselves like priorities. Put them front and center every single day, and that is how you will actively work towards your goals. And that's what the priority list system does for you. As I said, it takes the same amount of time as making a to-do list, but it tells you where to start. So when you write something down, I want you to ask yourself, is this task truly important? Does it align with my goals? Does it get me closer to my North Star? Does it make me the person I really want to be? We don't need to take extra time. We don't need to chase our tails or run around in circles. We want to be mindful and we want to work every single day to get closer to those goals. Now, if you'd love to learn more about the priority list system or how to create a system for planning every single day, I've got a podcast episode for you. You can get the link to that below. And don't forget to comment because I'd love to hear about a goal that you want to work on and how you're going to work every day to start making a difference towards that goal. All right, until next time, have a beautiful and productive week.